If you were forced to spend the night by yourself in what you thought was a haunted house, you would hate it. You would probably be very uncomfortable. Fearing for your life is not commonly thought of as fun. Yet, that's not working. Oh, there it is. Yet, many people go see horror movies that display all kinds of horrendous scenes that display torture, suspense, panic, and just pure misery. So why, if we're uninterested in experiencing anything like that in real life, would we go see it acted out on screen? According to a study published by the Journal of Consumer Research, horror fans experience a process called co-activation, which is like experience both positive and negative feelings at the same time. So while they're watching the movie, they were both scared and happy. So horror fans enjoy being afraid. So you might not understand that, but it's proven that that's why they go see movies. Because it's just entertaining. But before I can state my point of this speech, let's take a closer look at the definition of the word entertainment. Entertainment is being provided with amusement or enjoyment. It's an agreeable occupation of the mind. So this definition is what I want to address. I think that everyone needs to examine for themselves why a horror movie would be an agreeable occupation for your mind. I'm not here to tell you that watching thrilling, shocking, and intriguing movies is wrong and you never should do it. But I do think that watching horror movies can have some really dangerous effects, and you should at least be aware of that. So I've identified 3 main problems that young adults like us can experience when we watch horror movies, and that is mental abuse, a disregard for real-life horrors, and influence. So hopefully, whether you crave or shy away from horror movies, you'll have a clear personal reasoning behind why you would watch horror movies cautiously or not at all. So, my first problem that I'm going to talk about is minor compared to the other ones I'm going to talk about, but it's still very significant. Many of us probably had bad dreams when we were young, so easily scared, but it is not uncommon for adults to also experience night terrors, sometimes called the horror movies of the mind. According to the American Academy of Family Physicians, a possible cause for adults to experience a night terror is general anxiety. And in other words, that's just being really, really stressed. A shocking and disturbing experience like a death in the family, being the victim of an assault, an unusually stressful and overwhelming day, or just exposure to a really scary movie can just place tension on an adult's mind and cause a night terror. Another way horror movies can hurt you mentally is by causing anxiety when you're not dreaming. I didn't know this before I started studying for this speech, but researchers in a study of our psychological responses to scary films say that watching a horror movie can cause a spike in adrenaline and cortisol levels. And that can trigger memories of traumatic events that you have experienced. So if you have a bad memory that you don't want to subconsciously rehash, it'd be best to avoid this genre until you're ready. So it's important to know this before you just go watch a horror movie. It doesn't mean you should never again watch a scary movie, but you should be aware of the strain you're placing on yourself when you do. Okay, so now I'm on my second point. Oh, okay, there it is. Let's see. If you watch a scary movie again and again, it's gonna become less scary to you each time you watch it, because you know what to expect. And then maybe if you watch a similar movie that deals with the same kind of fears, even if you haven't seen it before, it probably won't be as scary to you either. By doing this, you're actually numbing yourself to your initial fear reaction to that movie. The fear we experience in horror movies is not artificial or fantasy. We have to realize that the writers of horror movies use these themes to manipulate our instinctual human responses to realistic fears. For example, we all have natural fear of being eaten. Often horror movies feature killer sharks, vampires, cannibals, and zombies. So even though we won't ever encounter creatures like that in real life, we still have that inner fear of death for a reason. Horror movies also tend to have the theme of spiritual evil, but this isn't something to be taken lightly. In the Bible, Jesus Christ had the power to free victims of demonic possession. So although, yeah, you're not going to see like a witch walking down the road later today, devil worshippers definitely exist, especially in primitive cultures, and actually, this is a voodoo priest in Haiti trying to summon an evil spirit, so stuff is real. Horror movies also utilize our fear of insanity. Audiences tend to love watching crazy people do crazy things, but serial killers, sexual abusers, and otherwise mentally disturbed people are unarguably very real and very dangerous. But what's the big deal? How is this numbness I'm talking about? Why is that even a big deal? A good example would be actually what you were talking about, watching too much gore, too much violence. Like I have mentioned, it would remove your natural alarm at the sight of bloodshed, so you become kind of used to it. A study published on Science Daily found that violent media exposure can reduce helping behavior. They staged a violent incident outside of a movie theater, and those who had seen a really violent, scary horror movie took longer to respond than people who hadn't. So they concluded that violent media can make viewers comfortably numb to the pain of others. But it doesn't stop there. My third and last point is that horror movies can encourage and inspire action. Now, I'm not saying that if you watch a movie about a killer, you're going to start killing people. But just as a really influential movie, like say a political movie, will cause you to think about the issues it addresses and maybe you want to act upon where you see those issues in your own life, horror movies can also inspire you to at least think that way and inspire action. Just a few years ago, a teenager named Jake Evans wrote his confession to kill his mother and sister. He admitted that he watched the 2007 remake of the movie Halloween 3 times that day, and he wanted to be able to kill without remorse like the main character of the movie had. So most likely Jake had other psychological issues as well, but it's important to see that horror movies can affect our thoughts and actions like he did. So in conclusion, horror movies can be really fun to watch. Like I said, it is kind of fun to be scared sometimes. But what I hope you walk away with from my speech is that you now have a caution toward how often you watch horror movies and how intense your choices are. It's important to know that they can cause mental strain, a comfortable numbness to evil, and triggers for mirroring what we see. So maybe now you can ask yourself if you're truly drawn to watching evil being displayed on screen, even if you are safe and sound in movie